What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Core Podcast covering all things Apple TV Plus. My name is Jim, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Luke and Paul. And today we continue our coverage of Vince Gilligan's Pluribus. Today we are covering Season 1, Episode 8, titled Charm Offensive. Paul, I'm going to start with you. I usually start with Luke, so let's do the damn thing. What do you do? Go. What'd you think of this episode? The penultimate episode.
Yeah, I think some people might say it was slow again, but I freaking loved it, man. They were giving us lots of tidbits of information, which I eat up. I love, and I think Carol was being sneaky in those conversations, which I appreciate. But it felt like all the way up to episode 7 was just getting Carol to break to the loneliness, and then this was episode 8, Carol trying to find the line of, do I stay my course and try to fix the world, or do I give in a little bit because this loneliness is killing me? And I think she's fighting that battle the entire episode, but it was so emotional to see Carol finally with other individuals. She has her moments where she breaks down. She has her moments where she gets very emotional. I just love Rhea Seehorn. I think her facial acting is incredible. Even when she's by herself, just pouring alcohol, you can tell that she's contemplating something. So I absolutely loved this episode, and I cannot wait for the finale.
Paul, did you just say you liked seeing Carol / Rhea Seehorn with other individuals? They're not individuals, bro. It's the
Yeah,
we.
true.
It's the hive mind, baby. Nah, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I agree with you, man. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was very, very strong in a lot of different things. I think that, like you were saying, we were getting hints at things throughout this episode with Carol. She's learning the game now. She's playing the game. We were wondering how she was going to be acting. Was she going to be fully broken, or was she going to understand that maybe she needs them more than she realizes at this moment, but at the same time, she's going to stick with her process. She's going to stick with her plan, and she really does want to, quote unquote, I'm going to start early, everybody drink, fix the world by taking care of this hive mind. Luke, I'll let you jump right in. What did you think of this episode?
I think this was my favorite episode since probably episode 2. So this broke I don't want to call it the lull of the middle of the season, but it's definitely the one I'm thinking about the most. I thought that Zosha crushed it this episode. I'm starting to form a hot take here where I think that Zosha might be my favorite character. And I don't
I
know how
love
you guys
Zosha.
like.
No, I don't think. But that's the crazy thing, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. She's your favorite character, but she is we. She's the
Of
hive
course.
mind. But we're learning some things, though. There's things to talk about with this. She's starting to get into the whole I and Zosha and actually utilizing the memories of the individual to talk to Carol. Now, that is by design because Carol wants it, but we have some stuff to talk about.
The show's just at its best when Zosha and Carol are playing off each other, and she's in her own way being manipulative to try and get some answers. And of course, like, a whiteboard is a classic Binge Empire, Binge on TV favorite. So that got expanded upon for the first time in like 4 or 5 episodes with legit rules that she's learned. So I always
Yeah.
like that she's keeping that in the back of her head. And I think you posed this question to us last podcast, Jimmy, about, or maybe it was Paul, one of you two brought it up, the idea of like when she broke down into Zosha's arms and was crying, is she still playing the hive mind?
Right.
And I think
Right.
if you combine the name of this episode, Charm Offensive, and with what happens towards the end of the episode, mostly yes, she is like lying. But at the same time, there's these moments of where the closeness and the relationship of between her and Zosha, it bleeds through, and it actually is like hitting something, because it causes her to write. Like, that's actually like a notable moment.
Yeah.
It's not her just bullshitting around. So there's something to be said about that. And I don't know if it would work as well if they didn't go out of their way to make Zosha look like the Raban character that this whole thing is based on, and her getting more comfortable with herself and feeling comfortable enough to share that with the hive mind. So that was like a growth moment for Carol, and she probably didn't expect that, because she thought in the back of her head she's playing them to get these answers, and that's the best part of this episode. But I will say that the expectations are through the roof for the finale, where this comment will probably only matter to Paul, but I feel like this is similar to Alien Earth, where the finale needs to land it where it's really going to taint my view of the season. And you guys are probably on the other side of it than me, because I think that you guys are enjoying it a little bit more than I am, at least through the middle part of the season. But this was a great step in the right direction. And if they land the finale, I'm back on to how I felt after the first two episodes in the premiere.
Yeah, to jump off your point, Luke, when you were saying that she's starting to make some kind of relationship with Zosha, or maybe even start to feel some feelings for her, she was being completely honest towards the end of the episode, where she said, like, I like you. And when she's saying you, she means we, she means they, right? She's
Mhm.
like, I understand you guys. I like you. You're nice. There's things that I really appreciate and I really do like from you guys. But this is crazy. This is not the way to live. This is literally an apocalypse, just a totally different kind of apocalypse than you would assume when you're thinking of TV or movies. And it's a tough situation for her, because I think that is really what's going on this entire episode. I mean, she breaks down into Zosha's arms at the end of the episode, and that's not fake. That's not playing them. But
Mhm.
we do find out what we were hoping. It's still there, the manipulating and the playing. It's still what she feels. She didn't just get broken where she changed her entire viewpoint and she's like, hey, you guys switch me, change me, or I'm gonna live with you and it's all good. She's learning that she can play it a different way. And I was kind of saying that in my intro, right? Kumba taught her, yo, you're being a little harsh, right? Nobody else wants you on the Zoom calls. We had to put you in timeout, meaning the hive mind had to put you in timeout because you were so volatile, so harsh. You're a toddler with a tantrum. And now Carol's realizing, when she was put in timeout, she just does need interaction.
Mhm.
Every human does, right? We need the interaction. She likes them, but she can still like them and act like she likes them and play the game while starting to figure out how she can continue on with her plan to fix the world.
Paraguay is going to be the jump start catalyst that gets her back to her roots, because like we saw at the end, like she is still showing signs of her rebellion against the group. But
Mhm.
let's just start talking about the episode, because Minusus is going to be the most important part of the next episode, and how Carol reacts to him versus actually how he reacts to Carol. And Zoja's situation is going to be one of the most interesting parts. But we really only get the one scene right in the beginning. If you guys are ready to jump into it, it's just
Yeah.
him doing exactly what we thought, which was waking up in the hospital and rejecting the help. What I did not expect was that he was only going to be in Panama at that time, and then we get the time skip or whatever. But he's pretty much right outside Mexico, so he's still a decent miles away, but he'll be there for the finale, is what it seems like is
Right.
going to happen.
Yeah. I loved it. I love his resolve to always pay his debt and never owe anybody anything. And he's like, how much did this cost? And they're like, dude, nothing. And they're like, no, from the people that were here before, not you guys. How much did this cost them? And the one lady bringing up like over $8,000. And then you see him like, I owe you $8,000 and an ambulance, because he takes an ambulance to go out. And they're like, do you need a receipt? I loved it. It's just comedy, but also showing the intricacies of how they operate. And it was a short scene, but I loved it. And it's also making me think, how is Manusos going to act when he does get to Carol? And Carol's message to
Yeah.
him was, they all left me alone. There's none of them here. I'm by myself
Right.
in Albuquerque, but now they're back. And now when he gets there, is he's going to be like, oh, you lied to me? Is he going to freak out? Is he going to just not trust her for a little bit? I brought up that worst case scenario, he kills Zosha type of thing to prove a point. And I
Phew.
couldn't imagine,
That would be
after
wild.
this episode, I couldn't imagine if that happened, how Carol doesn't kill like Paraguay right there. So
Yeah. So I love everything you guys are both saying. Manusos acted exactly how we thought he would. He was not down with them helping him out. He might be grateful that his life was saved, but he is not going to continue at all interacting with with the hive mind. And I'm still expecting him to be very not nice to Carol when he first meets her, because he's going to think that she's a traitor or, a hypocrite, whatever. But we're in an interesting situation here, because to your point, Luke, in your intro, we have one episode left. And the episode that we have left is going to be, I'm assuming, mostly focused on the fact that Manusos and Carol are finally going to meet.
Mhm.
And I'm sure they're going to give us some kind of cliffhanger, but my point is, do we have time for him to be mad at her, call her a hypocrite, and then them decide, all right, let's take this team or let's take this hive mind down? Or is it going to be he's just going to be okay with her? Or is it going to be he's mad at her and it stays that way and that's the cliffhanger and we'll see how they react and interact next season?
Ooh, that's a good question to kind of sum up Manusos's season, and I think that I mean, it's definitely going to have time. They're going to flesh out the hatred that he's going to have for Carol, thinking that she's a hypocrite. Like that is to me guaranteed. Whether
Yeah,
they're
it seems
homies by the end of the episode, that's a good question, Paul. What do you think?
Yeah, that's tough. Well, at the end of the ep, we got what he's 31 kilometers away from the U.S. border, so he's in Panama right now. So he could easily show up at the beginning of next episode. They just do a little time skip, or or I could see the season ending where like he shows up at her door, they meet, and then it just cuts. Which I would be upset if that happens because we've been dying to see how they interact with each other all season. But
yeah.
he's going to be a little upset with her, definitely.
Paul.
I wait real quick. I do write down the descriptions of the next episodes, and I will not read that one for the finale until we get to the end. But
Okay.
we're gonna have some interaction. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say that would have been very brave of Vince Gilligan to do that ending where like she opens the door and it's Paraguay and Manusos and then fade to black or
Yeah.
whatever.
Did you see the comments from Rhea Seehorn? There's been I don't know what it's been like, whether it's a couple like a couple of different press tours or whatever, but the marketing's been coming out, and I've only been seeing quotes, not how it's actually been said. But I think it was Rhea Seehorn herself who said that the finale is going to be wild. Like there's going to be a lot to chew on, and things are going to escalate. She also came out and said, I don't know how sarcastic or serious she was about it, but saying that she thinks she wants the show to go 10 seasons. That
I saw that.
just that can't be a thing, but
Yeah, that's
love
Carol
her spunk.
sarcasm right there. But yeah, I mean, she probably has a blast doing it because she's the leading lady in this show and she's freaking good at it. So it's probably really fun and she's probably got a really good relationship with Vince Gilligan. So I don't blame her for wanting to do 10 seasons. And hey, if you attach Vince Gilligan's name to it, I don't know how long it would take me to be upset if they keep dragging it out, but I'll keep watching. But either way, before we move on, I want to say it was really, really cool. Paul, you were alluding to it. Just the beginning scene opening up very quiet with the drips of blood. It reminded me of Breaking Bad with the pool scene with the teddy bear in the eyeball and different versions of those cold opens that he's done in the past. It was really great cinematography, and I was like, "Where's this blood coming from?" I mean, I assumed it was Manusos, but who
Yeah,
knows,
that
right?
was a little quick question. Not that it's anything crazy. Obviously, I assume it was from Manusos, but I was like, why is he bleeding? Why is it going onto the floor? Is there something that the nurse is doing that is causing him to bleed? But I doubt it. I think it was just showing that Manusos is still recovering.
Yeah, and it could just be the blood coming off the hands of the person who was just
Mhm.
helping with surgery or fixing up Manusos, cleaning bandages, etc. I mean, if you want to go wild, it could be like what you said, Paul, and they jabbed him while he was passed out with the needle. But I doubt that that's really the point of this show because we are kind of starting to understand the deal with this hive mind. Yes, they're probably manipulative, and I could say almost definitely manipulative, but it just seems like they really can't do anything like we could theorize.
I was getting mad Spartacus vibes from Manusos. Luke, Kyle talked about this. As soon as he wakes up, he just looks for this scalpel, looks for the knife, and just
Yeah.
knows how to protect himself. And then Jimmy, to your point, the artistic shots of the blood dripping. I feel like Gilligan always has these shots. When he would do it from shooting from below up top when Jesse and Walter are cooking and you see that kind of
Yeah.
you know blur as the meth is being cooked or whatever, and it brings it directly into Carol's next scene where she's making the lemonade. It is the shot from beneath the pitcher of just filling up with water. So I love how he switches scenes. The little consistencies like that is just refreshing. And it also is just like a change of pace because you don't really know what's happening. It just cuts all of a sudden. You're like, is this still Manusos? Is this Carol? And of course, it's Carol just making lemonade for Zosha and an awkward conversation to be have. So it's just such a fun way of
Yeah.
storytelling.
And again, we know from Breaking Bad that he'll use those cold opens as sometimes foreshadowing of future scenes. So the blood could have been anything. It could have been something from season 2. It could have been any kind of scenario. So it does get you going right away, being like, all right, what am I watching here? And again,
Mhm.
the silence of it all, just with the drips, was cash money. But yeah, like you said, Paul, Carol now is making lemonade for Zosha. It's awkward because Carol is in that situation where she knows she kind of just broke down to Zosha. She also knows that it's awkward because she was just outwardly saying that she's against the hive mind and she doesn't really know what to do. It's basically just like having this awkward conversation with an old friend that you haven't seen in a while, or someone you were dating or something. It's just Zosha's back in the picture and she doesn't really know what to say to her.
This the part of this conversation that I latched onto, which I can't remember if they explicitly said it in the past or we've just been talking around it, is just the idea that they can summon, for lack of a better term, anybody in the hive mind. So they offer up the idea of, do you want to talk to cousin Henry? And we have mentioned the idea that can they do the same thing with Helen, even though she technically passed away, but she was mostly there in the hive mind collective before she did. To me, that's almost a way of Vince Gilligan dripping it to us that they do have the ability to do it, and in the future we'll get a conversation like that because she shuts down the idea of talking to her cousin. So there has to be more of a reason that he's showing us that that's a concept that the hive mind can do. So that was the most important part that I took from this first conversation before they go and see where they sleep and everything. But also, Paul, they talked about the Georgia O'Keeffe painting. I don't know if you had anything there,
I,
but it's a
I
thing.
was just cracking up because Carol's acting like she was, "Oh, I didn't steal it. I'm just protecting it." And so she was like, "I don't really give a shit. Like, do whatever you want." But
Yeah.
Carol is in this state of, "Oh, I don't want to upset you guys." Like, she even says, "Is there enough water? Like, I can go add more water if you guys want. Just let me know if you want more water." Like, she is in this state of wanting to please them. And it's interesting because now, having seen the episode and looking back at this, is Carol doing this? Is the title charm offensive? Obviously, I think it was going towards Zosha, but is it also, work two ways where, like Luke was insinuating, Carol is kind of playing them too. And so
Oh
when she's
yeah.
talking about this O'Keefe, like, "Oh, I didn't mean to steal it," I can't tell if that's she was so lonely she doesn't want to upset them, she doesn't want them to run away again, or is she really playing them? Is she wanting the others to assume that she is broken and do all this? And it's a complicated question, and I think it's some of both. And I I
Yeah,
yeah, it's
agreed.
it's tough to read.
I fully agree with you. I think it's a little bit of both. I think that she definitely was very, very broken, very, very upset from how they left her and how she had no interactions. She was very, very lonely, and she doesn't want to upset them, but at the same time, because she doesn't want them to leave again. But at the same time, until she can actually figure this out, she would rather them be around, but she's starting to realize that it's better to make them think that she's on their side again, which we do foreshadow and get into this conversation later in the episode where she says, like, I won't give up. But she's still being nice and going through the motions with them and able to have these like conversations with Zosha, being able to ask these questions that, I mean, when I saw the lemonade, I was wondering if Zosha, and again, this is against everything that we've learned from the hive mind, but if this was a regular person and I was Zosha and an individual, I would be like, you got anything spiked in my drink, biatch? Like, you trying to,
True, true.
after
like, am I allowed to drink this?
Yeah.
after all that. And I thought the
But
board game conversation was really funny because Carol's like, "Bananagrams? No, you know all the words. Chess? God, no. You have
Dude, I
Grandmaster.
was thinking of you immediately, Luke, with the chess. It's
Mhm.
because it's just like, dude, they
Mhm.
have everybody that they could
Oh
just
yeah,
Well,
destroy Carol.
she threw some shade on Risk. I didn't like
yeah.
that.
World domination.
Well, that was because the world
Yeah,
domination,
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
joke of it all. But yeah, she was like, "Why do we even
Mm.
have that?"
Mhm,
And the spit conversation was interesting because
mhm.
they have the memories and everything of every person that ever existed, but they don't know where the name came from. They just know when it was
Well,
created. And just interesting
I
stuff.
do think that is a good point that this scene did show. And Jimmy, I think you just said it. I doubt you meant it. You said they have the memories of everybody that ever existed. Not exactly true. Everybody who was
Right,
alive
right, right.
during anybody who was alive during the joining, which I
The
Mhm.
think
joining,
was a new
correct.
term that they gave us this episode.
No, I think we've heard it
They've been
before.
using the joining, but yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I fully agree with you. That was a misspoke. I misspoke when I said that. I definitely agree that it was
Mhm.
only the people that were changed during the
But
joining.
so you mentioned the idea that she's like opening up to Zosha and now she's able to ask questions. That's kind of exactly what happens. You get more information when they go to the hockey rink. Because this is something we've talked about. Like, do they sleep? Like, what are they doing? And
Yeah.
everything that Vince Gilligan has told through the world building of the hive mind makes total sense. They want to be together because it's energy saving, and that's like their whole thing is they want to conserve energy for what we're now finding out is they are going to make the huge antenna. I think we've been theorizing that since almost
Yep.
like episode one, but we could talk about that in a little bit. I jokingly, I think it was the episode, Jimmy, when you weren't there and it was just me and Paul. I jokingly said like we talked about the wolves in a meaningful way. Like, is there
Yeah.
any chance that they're actually part of the hive mind? And they kind of squashed that right here, saying the dog is not, but the dog doesn't know that we're all joined, so they're going to connect to their owner still. So they just answered some questions here, and surprisingly, Carol was comfortable enough to sleep right next to Zosha. The relationship starts budding even more, which lends itself to the next couple of scenes. But this was good stuff because it's been a while since we've gotten concrete info. Couple episodes, so I was happy to see this, and we could just cross it off the list. Didn't see any children, unless
Agreed.
I missed that, but they did say births are happening. That's in a
Births.
different scene. So that could be its own conversation too. But this is the stuff I look forward to when we're watching a show like this.
So,
Luke's got his own whiteboard, just like
Yeah.
Carol. He's working the whiteboard.
So here,
And
I'm writing it down.
Paul, you have it, dude. It's so true. Bear Jordan, Cash Money. Great dog name. Love that. But Luke, you're saying, and this is a point that they're trying to tell. Like Vince Gilligan is telling us something in this scene, right? Carol being able to and wanting to sleep with Zosha and the rest of the crowd again is just hammering home how lonely she's been and how she just wants to be in the company of other people. Personally, I would be freaked out to
would
do
hate it.
that.
Oh yeah.
I think that was the point too. Is it is such an unideal situation for sleeping that why would Carol ever agree to sleep there? But that is how broken down and lonely she's been. She just wants to be around other people. And when she wakes up in the middle of the night and her arm is around Zosha, that was her immediate reflex, right? That's how she
Mhm.
wanted to feel comfortable while she's sleeping, but she pulls back because she doesn't want to fully commit to all that emotion and she doesn't know how to feel about the situation she's in. Every time Zosha asks her a question, Carol takes a second to like, do I want to stay? Do I want to leave? No. Do I want breakfast?
Right.
No, 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 I
Right.
don't. Do you want to come in? So back and
Oh,
forth all the time.
Ray Seahorn, phenomenal. Every single time any of those things came up, Paul, you're so right. Every time a question was asked where, do you want us to come in and make breakfast or can I come in or do you want to sleep with us, this and that, it was always the hesitation, and the hesitation on Ray Seahorn slash Carol's face is exactly what you said. Yes, I do. I do want it, but am I going to admit that right now? Most likely, no. I'm going to hope that you're just going to do it anyway because I really wish that you were with me, but I'm not going to admit it. And obviously, a few times she breaks in, admits or does something, but I thought that was phenomenal acting and something that is, again, Luke, we are learning a lot in this episode, a lot for the whiteboard here. And one of the things that we're learning from this sleep stuff is Zosha says to her, "Do you mind if we lay down?" I un- I don't know how much this matters, but we were wondering about, like, do they need a certain amount of sleep? Does it matter? Do they really care? Do they let their bodies break down if it needs to because it's just a vessel, or is it not? And do they actually want to thrive? She feels tiredness and she asks Carol, "Do you mind if I lay down?" I basically always have that problem where I'm like, are they robotic or are they human or are they in the middle? And, it's just tough to remember that they are still technically
Mhm.
humans. So they are going to feel those feelings. And she's tired and she does need to sleep.
I think
Hmm.
one of the little details they put in this scene that really helps you remember that they aren't robots is they have one man helping an older woman down to sleep, and it's like, oh, if they're
Right.
robots, she's just gonna fall down. She's not gonna care if she hurts herself or
Right.
whatever. But they are still, I don't want to say humans, but they are still like
Right.
the
Right.
human traits and properties where they still need to take care of each other. I mean, they talk about it, people dying, people giving birth, and all that stuff. So, it's going everywhere. But I thought one question that I wanted Carol to ask so badly, which she didn't, was, do you guys dream? Because do they dream?
Hmm.
Do they have individual dreams and then wake up and snap out of it? Is it just a blank slate, or do they all dream the same dream? Because it seems like they're all going to sleep at the same time. I assume they go to sleep at whenever it's night, wherever they are in the world, because that has to do with saving electricity and heating and everything, the economical aspect of it. So they're not, everybody in the hive mind is asleep at the same point. But I doubt we're gonna get it. But it's just one of those questions I have.
Hmm.
I wasn't thinking of that, but that's actually pretty cool. And let's move forward. We do have the whiteboard, but let's also talk about the hike when they go hiking, because this is where we start getting even more information. And this goes with your question, Paul, about do they dream? And she starts to explain, meaning Zosha, she starts to explain how things work or how they actually don't know how things work. And I think the first slam dunk, of course, is when the radio signal is brought up and is this how that works? But basically, Carol asks, like, how do you know, or how can you literally automatically make something happen? Carol's explaining how the train, the horn, she loves it, and Zosha makes it happen. And Carol's like, how do you do that? And we've wondered this too. Are they talking to each other? Are there words going back and forth? And she explains it as in it just nature, like it just happens. It
Hmm.
is what it is. It's just part of their bodies, part of their minds, and they're connected.
This day is fantastic if you're an audience member watching the Pluribus show, just because you get so much information across the three scenes that happen throughout this day. The one you're referring to is their communication method. Then you get into the massage, which is how they feel, and you get Carol asking questions there. And then you get into the viewing of the stars, of where the initial message came from, which is the origin. And they talk about the building of the antenna, all of that good stuff. Such a good day, and I guess I'm happy that they saved it all for this episode, but it also would have been nice them spreading it out, because I just felt
Yeah.
like my head was spinning. Like, this is all of the whiteboard material that she pretty much has since she started writing on the whiteboard. But it was fantastic. All three parts of this. I didn't necessarily know how hard sci-fi they were going to go with their communication method. Like, you could just chalk it up to um, telekinesis, and like, I'll believe you. Like, what am I supposed to say? But they're trying to give it a spin of realism, and I appreciate that. I always really do. So that's cool. I wasn't expecting that. She does go and say, like, even you, Carol, like, you have unused electromagnetic charge. You're not capable of tapping into that. We are, and that's pretty much all it is. And that's believable. I love it. And then everything that gets talked about throughout these three scenes is really good. That's when they drop the line about, oh, just now 1,600 people died, but 900 people were born. That indirectly answers the baby question, which is nice. And then, of course, the space scene directly answers what the overall goal is. What we've been theorizing since maybe episode 2, like our first podcast, that they're going to continue to try and spread that message throughout the world. I think that means that they don't care about the 10-year timeline, as long as they achieve their goal, build the message, and you know essentially
Pay it
carry on the
forward,
message
they're
from,
calling it.
yeah, the Kepler 22b people started out with. So it's cool that he's getting into the end game type of reveals, that, like, if we're going to get 4 seasons, like, I think he's going to go deeper into the origin of the signal, more so than I really originally thought. But that all the three of these scenes were just fantastic, back to back to back. So this was probably my favorite run of the
Oh
episode.
yeah, I was eating this up. I was like, give me
Yeah.
the answers. Give me these are the questions, Carol, I wanted you to ask episode 2 instead of pissing everybody off and making them run away from you. But Luke, you nailed a bunch of parts that I was going to bring up with the communication aspect. They say you have the I don't they said you have an electric charge, you're just not using it. Does that mean
hmm
that she's going to be able to communicate with them at one point, or is Zosha just making an observation? I would love if Carol's able to start communicating with them, not having to use the phone call anymore, but still not being a part of them. Will that happen?
That
I
would
don't know.
No, how are you going to
that
show
would be
that?
so tough
Yeah.
narratively. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Well, let me before I completely get away from that. Along with the communication thing, we were talking about when Manusos was doing all the frequencies, that
Mhm.
8.613 that had this weird pulsing. Now, I think me and Luke were talking a lot about it. Is that, or maybe it was you, Jimmy? Sorry, hate to dish out credit where I want to dish out credit where it's deserved. But they were saying, is this pulsing just a natural side effect of the frequency coming in, and it's just interference, or is this the pulsing from them communicating back and forth? And you
right.
know,
It's that.
you think that, well, I would love
Yeah.
that. I would love if we kind of can use that to decipher the messages that they're sending each other, and all of a sudden we have their communication, so we can, we believe they are telling the truth, but now we can find out everything they're saying to each other, which would be huge.
There's no
Yeah.
reason that they would be talking in a language.
Yeah.
Like it would just be their own form. So like, yeah, like the decoding of it would be the challenge, but that has to be the reason that we got that scene so early in the show. And it's going to pay off in the form of what we just got here. But that's a good connection.
Yeah, and I think the puzzle piece with Manusos is literally going to be that radio signal, and whether they can tap into it and almost have literally their own radio where they can listen in, or if it's just break the signal, right? They can no longer communicate with each other. The hive mind can no longer communicate with each other, or literally it disconnects them all and brings them back. I think that's going to be very, very important, and I think that's what Manusos is going to explain to Carol at some point, and they're going to spend however long working on it to see what they can do with it.
That's a season
And
2 thing.
yeah, oh, of course, of
Yeah.
course, that's definitely not happening. I don't even know if he brings it up in this season, to be honest. So, I mean, I feel like their interaction will be most of their initial interaction will be most of the next episode.
So,
Maybe.
quite.
I read the description.
Yeah, Luke knows. Luke knows. Question for you guys, because like Luke said, we got the spa scene that kind of talks about how they feel. Maybe we can relate that back to when Zosha was kind of having that heart attack. Maybe that's why they kind of reacted the same way, because they said like to feel everything would just be way too much. But we do kind of understand what each other's are feeling. So who knows? But the star conversation was really the meat, I feel like, of the info that we got. And Zosha kind of explains that we're grateful for Kepler 22b because they are the ones who sent this frequency towards us, and now we have to, pay it forward, is the way she called it, and send it to whoever else may be out there. So we were kind of talking about where is this frequency coming from in the first place, and the way that she phrases this here, it feels like Kepler 22b is not the originator of the frequency.
Mhm.
They are
Right,
just passing it along. So I was curious if you guys had kind
right.
of had the same thoughts.
But another question that follows off the is like, yes, like I totally agree. I don't think that Kepler 22b is point number one. That's just along the chain of the path of whatever this virus is, which that to me is just such an interesting question. I just don't know if Vince Gilligan's going to give us the crazy alien sci-fi answer in the end. I really hope he
Right.
does, because that is just everything to me of like what I'm so curious and latching on to. But it might not be that type of show, and that's fine. But the thing that they said that was confusing to me, did she not also mention that they said that Kepler 22b is an all ocean planet?
She did.
What does
She
that
did.
mean? How does they build an antenna?
Well, Luke, let's think about Foundation. That's an all ocean planet for my girl's planet, pretty much.
I guess. Yeah, no, I mean, I just feel like the idea of having the resources to build an antenna if you're in an ocean
Yeah.
planet. Like, I don't even think Gale and them in Foundation could have done it, but maybe.
Yeah. Anyone listening, of course, the Core podcast covered Foundation. But yeah, I'm talking about Gale's home planet. Yeah. Again, I think you nailed it. I really don't think that's the type of show this is, and I think we got all we're gonna get about
Possibly.
Kepler 22. And as a sci-fi fan, that hurts my heart, just like you said, Luke, because I love you could tell me anything and I just want to break it down.
Yep.
But I mean, who knows? If it goes 10 seasons, they might have to start getting into that stuff. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's true. We leave Earth, season 6. It's just
Yeah.
like the 100.
The thing that I want to talk about, we could put a pin in it because we're not there yet, but all of this information that we're getting, especially with the communication side of things, directly goes against this 2 scenes we've gotten so far in the last 2 episodes. And that's when Zosha and the other hive mind pause when they say, "You're about to have a visitor." Both times was because there's a visitor coming. One time it was when Carol was visiting Kumba, and the other one is now when Manusos is visiting Carol. It doesn't make sense for her to pause like that because she should just know. Why, we were saying, is this for direction, for narrative, just to show us like maybe she's uneasy about something that's about to happen. She knows Manuso's coming to Carol is not going to be a good thing. Is it just because they want to show us that she is pausing to see that Manusos is on the way or that someone's telling her that? It shouldn't really be that, though, because she should just know, because that's what she literally just explained to us. She should literally be able to just be like, "Oh, by the way, Carol, this is a nice conversation we're having. Someone's about to come show up and say hi. What's good?" Like, that's how it should be. And it is like that for everything, the train, everything.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, twice we've had this so far.
Can't defend
Yeah.
it.
I had a lot of questions about the pause, and I think Luke, you were kind of leaning into this a few episodes ago. But is Carol, with this constant interaction with Zosha, is this bringing Zosha's individuality back into play? It felt like it, right? Because Zosha's going on this crazy backstory about, this little guy with a little cart selling me mango ice cream. That was my favorite. And it feels like the more she remembers, the more she is kind of losing her hive mind. And it makes me think of Laxmi and her son, because of like, is Laxmi, changing her son? It doesn't really feel like it. It feels like her son's kind of obviously still in the hive mind, and it's been forever since we got him. But it made me think, what's the difference? And maybe if Laxmi, a mother, knows everything about her son and just tells her son about memories or the past, nothing happens. But Carol asking Zosha having to dig up those memories of herself, is that a trigger? Or
Having to live
yeah,
through it. Yeah, I love that.
or is this just Zosha pausing
Eh,
because somebody's coming again? Like, I don't freaking know.
Well, you guys did a
mean,
good job of tearing that up a little bit all the way back in episode 3 or 4, whatever the Vegas episode is, right? Like, you guys had that
well, I'm
conversation.
talking about the episode that was 2 ago when she was actually visiting Vegas.
Sorry, that's what I
That was
meant.
only
Yeah. Episode 5. Yeah,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And I think, Paul, I agree with you 100%. When she paused, I fully believed that she was like getting lost in the memory of the individual. And it was actually doing something to her, not necessarily breaking her off from the hive mind full throttle, like, oh, Carol just figured something out. But it was something where she was actually able to tap into the individual and she was getting lost in those memories. And then, of course, she says somebody's coming. So I don't know. We'll see.
Mhm.
We'll find
The
out.
only pause that made sense was when Carol initially asked to talk to the other 12 because she needed to actually have a conversation with people, the hive mind.
Right.
The pauses don't make sense here. It's just for dramatic purposes. I don't think there's any real reason it's happening or it's going to get explained. So I think we can just leave it as TV making.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Vince Gilligan doesn't really do that, though. So I don't know.
But
I
this
don't
is
know.
like a sci-fi unexplainable type of thing that Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul were so based in realism that there wasn't a situation that you could put us in that you had to hand wave across the something like, I mean, you could say how pure he makes the meth, but like even that is based in sci-fi. Like when you're in real science, you can't like I don't think there's any way for Vince Gilligan to explain those pauses. Like what would he even say? Like our mind is being warped by the atmosphere and like I just don't even think of a realistic way that he could explain that something's happening there unless something
Yeah.
nefarious is happening, and I just don't see that being the case.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I feel you because the first one was fully about someone coming, and there was no scenario where they were in the bath with Kumba thinking about old memories.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the Zosha thing was interesting in a vacuum, but if you put them together, then I agree with you, Luke. That's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably not going to
Mhm.
get
I'm
explained.
not going to harp on it too much, but just to bring up the concept of like the queen bee, the first one to get infected. Is the pause them getting the orders for, or just having the conversation like Luke was saying, and it just takes a second for the signal to get there and back? That could just easily explain it, whether it's coming from one individual or, the whole hive having a conversation at once, whatever they're doing, saying like, okay, we need to move, start up the trucks, we're leaving. That could easily explain the pause.
And for what it's worth, I am anti queen bee
Yeah, me
theory.
too, honestly.
Yeah, the queen bee thing is against everything we've learned so far from the hive mind, and if they can't really lie, then it just doesn't seem like that can become a thing. But who knows? Who
I
knows?
will
So
buy queen bee of the original species that sent the first signal. That's what I will buy on a different planet.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
All right, next day.
Let's see here.
Because
Yeah, let's do the
so
next day.
basically what we have in this next day is, I think we're on day 3 of this specific episode. Maybe it's day 2, but there's a split that I think it's a natural way for us to talk about this. Everything that happens during the day, and then everything that happens at night. And during the day, there's a couple of scenes here, which is just the croquet, the battle of the croquet. They have a conversation there. We have the initial whiteboard scene, and then we have the scene at the diner. So like I feel like those 3 scenes are probably easy to just talk through all together, because most of it is whiteboard stuff that we already have mentioned throughout this podcast.
It's just a lot of bonding. It's a
Yeah.
lot of a scenario where Zosha and Carol are actually bonding, and it all sums up in the end of the episode when she says, "Guys, I like you. I do like you, but this isn't right." Right. So there's a lot of bonding going on, a lot of subtle questions being asked. Carol's enjoying it, but she's also playing the game, and then it really all comes to a head when she thinks the best thing ever at first, when the diner is figured out and set up for her. But
Hmm.
then when she goes, "Oh wait, this thing burned down and you guys just are manipulating me," right? She gets up and leaves. And I know I'm kind of rushing through the entire thing, but I thought it was awesome when, Zoe's just talking shit and has on the
Hmm.
board, "You suck, Carol," and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff. And
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That was so funny.
it's just the full on bonding. And as this goes on, unless you're right, Paul, and Paraguay just comes in and kills Osh the next episode, as this goes on more and more, Carol's going to feel a type of way when she's bonding with Zosha, getting closer to her. But then when it's time, Zosha, the hive mind, the person she's bonding with,
Mhm.
will be gone. And it will become Zosha, the person before the joining. And that's not who Carol is bonding with currently. But you could just see it. Like Zosha knows how to play the game with Carol. She's flirting with her, she's teasing her. They're going back and forth during this croquet. We have the diner situation, and Zosha's so happy. She thinks it's the best thing ever that Carol's happy, and she's happy that she's writing again. She likes hearing the stories. Please explain how you feel during this. And Carol really is eating it up all the way to the point where she's like, "Oh wait, you're building this from scratch, and this is not real."
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot happened in these scenes. I'm not going to try to harp on them too much, but I'll just go through them. One, when Carol calls to get new markers, no more answering machine. I was a little sad. I
Hmm.
was a little
Right?
sad to see it go, but it makes total sense they would get rid of it. And then with Zosha and playing croquet, and Zosha saying, "We're so excited to have something new to read," that feels genuine. Like the
Yeah.
humor that Zosha and Carol have going back and forth. I get it could be part of the whole charm offensive that they're trying to get Carol, they're quote unquote seduce Carol, but it just feels so genuine. Some of the smiles, some of the reactions. I can't tell if it is the seduction or if Zosha is enjoying herself and, coming back into individuality. But I also like the little explanation.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. It could be manipulation, but
It's I'm not saying it's fully manipulation, but also the problem is it's not Zosha, it's we. It's the entire hive mind that are enjoying themselves, and it makes sense. And I know what you're saying. You're saying could it be turning Zosha back into Zosha? But I think that the point of the hive mind too is that as long as Carol's happy, they're happy, and whether it's manipulation or not, if Carol's having a good time, they're having a good
yeah,
time. You know,
maybe the charm offensive is working on me. And I'm just
they're charming your ass,
I'm
dude.
thinking of Zosha as an individual when you're totally right. She is part of this hive mind. They are all saying this to Carol, not just Zosha. So, I mean, it's totally fooling me and pulling the wool over my eyes here.
I mean, this is where it gets into the conversation with Carol and Zosha, where Zosha's having a very tough time saying I or Zosha and not saying we or they or anything Carol wants for individuality. Zosha says I could try, and obviously as the episode goes on, she gets better at it. And is that by design, Paul? But I, I mean, Carol really wishes. I think she wishes that this was a person, but it's a we, right? And she says you can't say I. It's that tough. Pronouns are that tough for you. You could do anything in the freaking world, and you can't say I. It's that hard. And Zosha has to really work at it.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with the idea of them, the collective hive mind, having of read every book that humankind has
Yeah,
access to, and the idea that we can't, like, there's any bits of media that have been created have been consumed by somebody, and like we
for
want something
sure.
new, and they
Yeah.
probably can't conceptually come up with a new idea.
Definitely.
Maybe it does. That's kind of what that implied to me. Like they're not meant to have human creativity that's naturally and organically going to come up with new ideas. So them just latching onto her writing a new book is like amazing. That's such a cool idea because I never really thought about that. That goes for everything, every TV show, every movie, every book, every song. They have heard it all because they've either made it or have consumed it millions of times around the world. That's just such a fun little idea to think about when it comes to the hive mind.
Definitely, definitely. And
Agreed.
it's weird because you assume some of the people that got taken over had ideas for things that haven't been written yet, but like you said, they can't create anything that hasn't been really already created. So it's like a kid, waiting to hear the end of the bedtime tale, and they're saving it for the next night. Is Carol and this Waikaro now? So and they seem to genuinely enjoy it. Now, is that just them pleasing Carol? It could be, but when Carol gives Zosha chapter 1 and Zosha's like, "How is this going?" and she's rattling off all these things, it seems like she is genuinely just intrigued and loving the story of it. So, can Carol use this?
She's charming your ass,
Dude, it's
bro.
reverse.
She is charming
Dude,
your
it's a
ass.
reverse Uno card, fucking activating her trap card. And will she be able to use this book of Wakaro to manipulate the others somehow?
Yeah. So before we get into that, we get the kiss, right? And the big deal here is the nighttime. And
Mhm.
Carol storms out after the diner. Zosha's very confused. We are confused. Everybody looks at her. The cars stop. Carol, maybe she asks for Zosha to come back, or Zosha decides to go visit Carol later. Either way, they're having their conversation. And Carol, I already alluded to this earlier in the episode, basically says, like, listen, I like you guys. I don't like you. I like you guys. I like you guys. You're really nice. You're really cool. You're fun to hang out with. I'm not lonely anymore, but this is crazy. This is not how the world's supposed to work. Pick a damn apple. You guys are starving yourselves. You're going to die out in 10 years. This just isn't how life needs to be. I'm going to fix this. And then she says to Zosha, you can't pretend like I'm not going to still be trying to fix this. I am still who I am. We might be having a good time together, but are we really going to play this game? And this is, Paul, you have it in your notes too. She says, I'm going to put this world right, even if you all leave me again. And that is, again, the great storytelling from Vince Gilligan, where it's going to pain her. She doesn't like the idea of fixing it or trying to fix it because she doesn't want to be lonely. I mean, the juxtaposition of that is that she literally would not be lonely anymore because everybody would be back. But Helen's dead, so she's starting to have feelings for somebody that she's going to be getting rid of. And at this moment, you guys guessed this, I don't even know how many episodes ago, Zosha kisses Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Carol's confused, and then she kisses her back. Now, this is an interesting conversation because we have a hive mind here. And Zosha, the not individual, the person that is representing the hive mind, decides to kiss Carol. Is this a major manipulation, or is the hive mind actually believing that they want to kiss Carol at this moment?
That was a question I had for you guys. And I was going to say something similar. Is it, oh my God, Carol's crying. She looks sad. Kiss her because that would make her happy. Or is it them saying, realizing she's getting her mind back on track. She wants to put the world right. She will even be lonely again. Distract her by giving her what she wants, kissing her, making love to her. And, that will maybe cause her to hesitate. Is it make her happy or steer her off course? Is kind of why did she kiss her?
I mean, both of those answers mean that it is manipulation, is what you're kind of implying there. And I agree that it's definitely manipulation. And I think it's probably more of the make her happy answer because that's been their MO since episode 1. Like they have never really detracted from that. And as much fun as we can have trying to attribute the growing individuality of Zosha with what we're seeing, it's really just a theory at this point. There's no real reason everything can't be explained in a way just to manipulate and make Carol happy so that she doesn't freak out and cause negative emotions to freeze them all. So it's fun to theorize, but I don't think it's anything past that yet. Unless I missed some other hints, I really think it was manipulation. But it's also the moment that the mask slipped for Carol and the charm offensive fell off her face a tiny bit here. She's being real for once. So they know she's manipulating her. I think that in the back of Carol's head, she's also aware of it to some degree. It's just a good complication of things to happen right now as Paraguy's about to show up and add a third variable to the equation.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's going to get sorted out before he shows up and makes everything 10 times crazier. So I think they're doing a good job of leaving that up in the air where it still could be any answer, but I don't think we're going to get an answer. So it's really just guesswork at this point.
Something that's very interesting about this hive mind is if we think of the hive mind as an individual, one huge, enormous individual, right? 7 billion is one. And then there's 12, 13 other individuals for it to communicate with separately besides from within itself. Is there a possibility that we, the hive mind, the entire huge individual, is getting feelings for Carol?
Wow, that's straight out of Rick and Morty, where they just all fall in love with Rick, the hive mind.
Okay, I don't think I've seen that.
No, it's great.
A lot of people are saying the hive mind thing from Rick and stuff is they were saying that about Pluribus from the very beginning, that it might be a ripoff, but
not a ripoff.
I don't think I've seen. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that episode or that.
My
far
answer
into
to
the
that
show.
question though is no, because I feel like they're giving the same treatment to Kumba in all the other spots of the world. We're just not seeing that. So if we were watching a show that was based around him, you might be saying like, is the hive mind falling in love with Kumba and his personality and his goals and ambitions and all that? But like,
yeah, that's
I'm
true.
still, I just am purely on team. Everything is about manipulation and control right now to get the antenna up. Like, I think that's like the main goal of everything that they do.
Yeah.
And like we were saying, it's by design. I'm still from agreeing with you 100%, no matter what, Luke. I'm not going to lean any other way than this is a hive mind that has their rules, and their number one rule is to make Carol and the other individuals happy. But Zosha got better at seeming more individual as the episode went on. And she starts telling the story, like you said, Paul, and then it pauses, and then she says, "You're going to have a visitor." But the conversations that they start to have about the book and about, her memory, however, favorite food and all that kind of stuff really does make it seem like Zosha's just getting better at pretending
Mhm.
to be the individual.
Well,
Okay, the
Not that
pretending
she's
is
actually in. Yes.
the pretending is
Not
the important part there, because
right.
if you
Right.
remember all the way back in, I think this was episode 3, when Kumba and Carol split for the first time and he goes to Vegas, he says to her, "What, you haven't like gotten to know her and you haven't asked questions about Zosha," implying that he himself has been. So I'm picturing in my head Kumba is with all these other infected doing whatever he's doing, but he's asking them questions about themselves and asking about their individual backstories in the same way. We just haven't seen that, but he did
Yeah.
kind of imply that he was doing that with Zosha in the past. So I don't know though, but like, I mean, you're probably onto something too, because I don't know how explicit you're trying to say it, but like Zosha will probably break and have some actual moments of individuality. Otherwise, like, where did this show even go?
mhm.
Like, I feel like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
something like that
And
has to happen.
I think that we'll get there eventually, but I'm actually saying that I fully still believe that there's no break happening, and it's
Okay,
just
okay,
her
okay.
getting
Yeah.
better at doing what Carol says.
Yeah,
In the
okay, okay.
beginning,
I'm with you.
she couldn't like. I guarantee, and I guess I I shouldn't say guarantee, but when Kumba asks those questions that he asked Zosha, I don't think he would say, "Zosha, I want you to say I and tell me in that scenario." He probably just said, "Yo, what did Zosha used to do? What was her favorite food?" And she would say, "Oh, Zosha's favorite food used to be mango
Yeah,
and
okay.
mango ice cream." And Carol say, "No, no, I want you to tell me what your favorite food at like pretend." And Zosha says to Carol, "My favorite food when I was younger was mango ice cream."
Mhm.
And then she's telling the story as if it is her memory, but otherwise they tell the story as if they're tapping into somebody
I
else's
like that.
memory.
Yeah, there's something there.
I like
Mhm.
that because you're saying it's forcing Zosha to speak and remember her individuality, as in saying, like, I enjoyed this, I enjoy this, not we. So I do like that a lot. And I think the seduction of Carol wasn't fair because Zosha knows everything that Carol likes in the bedroom
Yeah.
because of Helen.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like Zosha's individuality coming back, maybe potentially. I already called this a few episodes ago. Remember, we said that the cure was literally just to make them have an orgasm.
Orgasms.
Yeah. So then Zosha wakes up all happy, and all of a sudden she's got a little bit of herself back. So Carol's
Mhm.
doing it, man. She's changing the world back one night in bed at a time.
Well, let's talk about what Carol gained from that, because it almost was like a muse moment where she wakes up, she's inspired, and she writes the next chapter. We already talked around it, but like she now changed Raban to be a woman, like we kind of talked about all the way back in the first episode. And then Zosha and the Hive Mind love it. It's just like a solidifying moment between them, and it does feel like their relationship is getting stronger. It's just who it keeps going back to the same thing we've talked about 35 times, like how much of it is manipulative from the Hive Mind side and how much is it actually getting through to Carol. So that's really all that happens before we get the last scene.
Yeah. Which
I just loved seeing Zosha with the entire conversation saying, "Are you gonna retcon it?" And then just
Yeah,
like diving deep into the lore like it's us talking.
the
That
most
was awesome.
stereotypical, oh, like it got lost, the caves of wonder got lost time.
Yeah.
It's like the most basic fantasy like
It's
blurbs you
like
could
Vince
go with.
Gilligan. You making fun of us,
yeah.
Yeah,
bro?
what the hell,
And I
man?
loved it too.
uh
And
Yeah.
no, I thought it
And
was
I
yeah.
guess she was speaking for the Hive too, because again, they can't come up with their own things. But like her reactions and her genuine smile and excitement, I couldn't tell if everybody was feeling that, if that was just
She's charming your ass,
yeah,
bro.
it's working,
She's charming your ass.
it's working.
the, Zosha's
Paul would
actor
have
is
Paul
just
would have
A
given the
plus.
stem cells already if he was in
Dude,
this world. He would be like, "Take that, bitch."
so
Yeah.
good.
Paul would have been like, "Bro, I'm in, dude. I'm in. Zosha, smile. Give me that smile
Mhm.
again.
Mhm.
You're doing it for me." I mean, Zosha's actress, whatever, is freaking phenomenal. She's a great scene partner for Rhea Seahorn. I wish I could say her name. I didn't have it written down. We said it earlier in the pod though. But Yeah, I can't get enough of Zosha's actress on screen, and I really hope you're wrong, Paul. I hope she's okay and she continues to be in this TV show. But yeah, so now we have her pause say that we have someone, a visitor coming, and we obviously have Manusos on his way. And Luke, do you want to give us the description for the next episode?
Yeah, yeah, and we can just kind of end there. But it's episode 9. It's called La Chica o el Mundo. So the girl or the world is what that means. So to me, just based off that title, that's its own thing. So the girl or the world in Spanish. And so and I'll talk about that in a second, but the description is season finale. Manusus arise in Albuquerque and complications ensue. And then Carol visits the last best place on earth. So my two thoughts on that are for the title, it almost seems like Paraguay. Wow, that was insane. I didn't even mean to do that. The title makes it seem like Paraguay is going to make an ultimatum decision for or
Yeah,
give Carol an ultimatum. Do you want the girl being
right.
Zosha or do you want to help me save the world? So that's probably what that means. But the description of the episode where it says that the last part, Carol visits the last best place on earth. My first thought is Iceland, right? Like or something like that, maybe because isn't that where she said the last time she was happy, truly happy, or something like that? That's kind of where I'm going, but where else could even be an option for her to go as the last best place on earth?
Not Disneyland, right?
So,
I
She's not going to Disneyland.
no.
I I don't know, man. I don't think I have a real guess for this.
Yeah.
The last best place on earth.
Is that just somebody like somewhere free of the others, and that's
I
Manusos's
mean,
best place on Earth?
if you're talking about through Carol's point of view or Manusa's point of view, then I would think it would have to be somewhere that the hive mind aren't, like you just said.
Mm.
They're not there. They're not
But it,
able to get.
but she needs somebody else there. Otherwise, what was the purpose of showing her loneliness being a problem? Like if she's going to go somewhere the hive mind's not, then that means she
Yes,
needs.
Manusas.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it's just them two, but the first part of that sentence kind of goes with what we talked about earlier, where complications ensue. It's almost exactly what we're kind of predicting, where he's not going to be happy with the current situation. So I don't know how quickly they can resolve that dispute and then make them go off and find a new place, but it's definitely on the table as a possibility.
Yeah. Dude,
Manuso seems pretty straightforward, and I don't mean to say like he's a boring character or anything. I just mean like I think we can guess correctly, especially from the description, that
Mhm.
he is going to be very stern, very strict, very straightforward. Yo, you either come with me or you stick with the hive mind. You're not going to be a hypocrite. You're not going to get best of both worlds. Manusos has not utilized the hive mind unless he really had to, obviously, like for his life being saved and stuff. But we know the deal. He'll pay them, pay the individuals that they were. He does not want to be involved with this hive mind. And I don't think he'll work with Carol unless she decides that she's with him 100%. And that will obviously be a huge deal for Carol because she just had this moment with Zosha and now it's time. Make your decision, Carol. Which way you going to go? And it's tough to think that this being season 1 of 4 or possibly 10, that she's already going to break off from the hive mind and fully go with Manusos. There's obviously going to be some rough patches there, and she's going to have a tough decision to make, and she's probably going to go back and forth and back and forth, and that's obviously where the the drama is going to be.
okay.
Mhm.
Crazy scenario just popped up in my head. And I was freaking out saying that I was worried that Manusos was going to kill Zosha. So I think the big difference between Manusos and Carol and the rest of the other that aren't infected is that they don't have family that are still infected. Manusos does have family, but he doesn't give a shit about them. He's like, my mother was a bitch. Like, I don't care about you. So he doesn't have that connection to like bring him back to the hive mind. Carol doesn't either. The only thing was Zosha, or I'm sorry, the only thing was Helen that was the personal connection. And the hive mind was able to manipulate Carol with Zosha. What if the girl or the world situation pops up and Carol is faced with this and Carol kills Zosha to solidify her resolve to go on and save and fix the world. I don't see like that would be the most heartbreaking moment without a doubt in the entire show because we just showed how lonely Carol is and how much she wants Zosha around to be the other. But if that's the situation, which we see she's fighting with this entire episode, she's writing on the board to make progress, to fix the world, make it right. But she's also giving in on her weaknesses to Zosha. So she's going to have to make a decision. Can she leave Zosha alive and just move on with her life?
as as much as she wants to pretend like she has a plan and she's following it, from the very beginning she figured out, yo, you guys are trying to manipulate me with this person, this Zosha person that looks like the character in my book. But exactly what you said, Paul. They did it and it worked. She is having a relationship with the hive mind through the exact person that they sent purposely. So like I said, I hope that it's not going to be that. I love Zosha. I love Zosha's actress, but it is just so crazy. Even like us saying, I love Zosha. We love the hive mind. That means,
Mhm.
it
Well,
you can put anybody in there.
how about this? What if we have an outcome where Carol ends up picking the girl
Mm.
and we see her dive down into true belief of the hive mind at least through the beginning of season 2, and that's her path. Like her decision is actually maybe she kills Paraguay. Like that almost seems to me more likely than killing Zosha, which I think is off the table. I don't think there's any
Yeah.
world where Carol purposely murders Zosha, no matter what Paraguay says. But there is a world where if guy's threatening with like a gun or something to kill Zosha in order to convince Carol, like Carol picks Zosha. That would be a wild twist to end season 1 with, because then she has such a mountain to climb back to get back to get back to the place where she's against the hive mind. And that is material if you're gonna, try and milk this story for 4 seasons.
Yeah, playing that what if game, at first I was going to say I can't see Paraguay dying because we need his information and we don't have many individuals left.
That's true.
But like you're saying, if it's to extend the show and have Carol have to figure out the radio stuff herself later,
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be a pretty cool twist to have Carol side with the hive mind in the end in the end of the season. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I think she's going to kill Paraguay, and also we could play this game all day. Who's going to kill who? What's going to happen next? But it's man. Oh, well, actually, let's announce this. I can't believe we didn't announce it in the very beginning of the episode. The next episode, the finale, is coming out on the 23rd of December, guys. So before the holidays, before Christmas Eve, before Christmas, normally it would be dropping on Christmas Eve night into Christmas Day. Now it's dropping on the 23rd into the 24th. So we're going to be seeing this episode early, and I'm glad because I can't wait to watch what they give us in this finale. So, guys, if you're listening to this episode, there's not going to be the full week in between. So, get your theories in, get your thoughts ready, join the Discord, talk to us, bingetowntv.com/Discord, hit us up on the Spotify comments, YouTube comments. We're all here. We want to talk about this before we see the finale. And otherwise, Luke, Luke, Paul, you guys got anything else you want to talk about for the end of this episode?
I just want to point out that I just looked up IMDb fresh right now on the 19th, and the ratings for episode 8, which came out within the last 24 hours, aren't out yet, but it does seem solidified that episode 7 is going to probably be the lowest of the season. 7.5, still pretty damn good for being the lowest, but it is the lowest compared to the rest of the season. And I personally would agree, but I know a lot of people are adamant online that they're on the opposite side. So I'm happy that it really clicked and hit for a bunch of people, because some people are going to walk away from this season saying that episode 7 was the best. I'm not
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
but happy for you. That's all
Yeah,
I'll
I
say.
mean, people rank sometimes episodes about how much that episode actually makes them feel emotions. And in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
sense, you could say, episode 7 made you feel the most, which I think it definitely had its moments. I can't wait though. I feel like the show's kind of gonna get back into that episode 1, episode 2 territory where it does give
Mhm.
us some info dump, and then maybe season 2 it can go back into a lull. I don't know. But I love where the story is. So much unknown, but they are giving us little bits of information. I don't think we're going to get full answers on any of these, but one, I just for the finale, I would love a Helen flashback. Love Helen and Carol interacting together, so I would love to see that. And then I want to know what is the deal with the howling. They always show on the recap episode Carol going outside and howling towards these wolves, and I couldn't even imagine what it would begin to explain, but there is something there. And
Mhm.
then the other thing is the signal. I just want to learn more about the signal, but I think we got as much as we did about that this episode for the season, and maybe we'll learn some later on in season 2.
And my final guess I want on the board is I predict 0 deaths next episode.
Yeah, I agree with that. Paul, the wolf thing, I don't know if it's going to be anything more than the symbolism of her being so lonely that she's howling with the wolves because she literally was by herself, like the lone wolf, and she's just craving some kind of connection with anything. But yeah, you're right. They keep showing it. So who knows? I mean, we've been talking about these damn wolves for a long time. They got brought up this episode when she was talking about that hilariously stupid excuse for taking the painting. Those
Mhm.
wolves might get in there, man, and rub across it and mess up the Mona Lisa. But I would agree. I agree with everything you guys are saying, Luke. I agree with you. I don't think there is going to be any deaths. I do think that we're going to get, as much as Vince Gilligan said he doesn't think there's going to be any shocking things in the finale. I think that we're still going to get something. I think that he knows that to keep the casual audience, he can be the best storyteller ever and be the best character storyteller ever. You got to have something to make everyone want to jump for season 2. So
Yep.
we'll see what happens, guys. I'm super, super excited. This has been pretty quick. I said this last episode. I think each episode goes by very quick, and it seems like these 9/8 weeks have gone very, very quick too. So we'll be back in just a couple days, guys, with the finale. After that, we have Idris Elba's Hijack. That will be dropping in January in 2026. And then after that, we have Shrinking at the end of January. So the core podcast is going to keep on rolling right into the new year. But guys, like I said, hit us up on Discord, hit us up on the Spotify comments, hit us up on YouTube. Let's talk about it. Once again, we are the core podcast covering all things Apple TV. And thank you so much for listening.